Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today for Keeping Hackers Out and Your Data Secure, a proactive approach to G Suite security. My name is Drew Sidel. I work on the G Suite for Higher Education team. I work in a group that has this incredible opportunity to work with hundreds of colleges and universities across North America. We also get to learn from them about how they approach collaboration, how they approach security on campus, and I think from what you'll learn today, higher education poses a lot of challenges that are not unique to higher education. So what I'm really excited about is that our customers and our guests will have the chance to share their lessons learned and how this can be applied to your organization as well. We're going to have Andrew Sullivan, a senior product manager on Google Cloud, joining us. Next, we'll have Jason Manners, a systems specialist from NC State. And lastly, we'll have Mike Saxton, who's the CISO at Georgetown University. To give you an indication of how hard some of these folks have been working and the prep they've put into this, Mike was sharing that he'd been practicing this presentation in his hotel room, and because he wanted to keep it true to form, he'd been using a TV remote as the microphone. And he was walking here from his hotel room, got about half the way to the center and realized he still had the TV remote in his hand. So a big thank you to all of them because they've put in a tremendous amount of work to make this session as beneficial as possible for all of you. As we're going through, if you hear some content that brings up a question, or if you already have something bouncing around your head that you'd like to ask the group, please do use our Dory. To access the Dory, you can go into the Google Next application. Then you can find this session today, click the Dory Q&A link, compose your session, and then you have the chance to upvote the questions that you would like us most to answer. We're talking today about G Suite and G Suite for Education specifically. If you're not familiar with G Suite, it's a platform that Google offers for businesses and governments and educational organizations. And we bucket the G Suite tools into a few different categories. One, we have creation, giving users the opportunity to collaborate in real time from anywhere, anytime, on any device, using tools like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Slides, and storing everything in one place securely with Google Drive. We also have tools to connect from anywhere, anytime on any device, like Gmail, Google Meet, and Google Chat. For coordination, we have a lot of tools that we afford to all users, and then we have some specific to education, like Google Classroom and CourseKit. And for control, which we'll be speaking about specifically today, for those CISOs and G Suite administrators in the room, we have the admin console, and we also have Google Vault for archiving and e-discovery. As you may have seen already this week, G Suite has long been adopted by the cloud-native and very innovative companies, thinking of the Lyfts and the Spotifys and the Netflix of the world. And in my 5 years at Google, something that's been incredibly exciting to see is that a lot of established market leaders are now moving to G Suite. Organizations like Verizon and Airbus, BBVA and Whirlpool. And we see these organizations moving to G Suite not for the specific bells and whistles of the functions or capabilities, but actually for the business drivers of breaking down data silos, making people more efficient, making them more collaborative and more effective in their jobs. And in education, we see G Suite is incredibly high adopted as well. I have a question for the audience. This is the former educator in me. Raise your hand if you can tell me the number that was just announced today of how many students and educators and administrators are leveraging G Suite. Yes. May we please give this gentleman a round of applause? That was incredible, yes. I had this nightmare that someone was going to say 15 or something. I was like, no, yes, that is correct. It is 90 million. And in higher education specifically, we see G Suite very widely adopted as well. In the US News and World Report, top 100 colleges and universities, over 80 are leveraging G Suite, as well as 8 of the 8 Ivy League organizations as well. And I'm very proud that we have both Georgetown and NC State University represented here today. And at this point, I'm going to be handing things over to Andrew, who's going to be sharing a little bit more about how, from the product side, we're enabling organizations to be more proactive with their approach to G Suite security. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Drew. Hi there, I'm Andrew Sullivan. I'm a product manager for G Suite Security out of Sunnyvale, California. I actually live here in San Francisco, so this was a short commute for me today. I'm here to tell you a little bit about G Suite Security and how it provides proactive, intelligent, and simple protection for your users as you manage collaboration across your environment. Quick question, how many of you are G Suite administrators today? Almost all of you. Okay, fantastic. So we'll get right into the details of it. G Suite Security, as you know, provides proactive protection across email, across Gmail, Drive, and Gmail, Drive, Keep, etc., across our full range of products. And we really have designed this to take advantage of Google's machine learning to provide proactive protection across the environment. Taking advantage of our machine learning where, because Google has coverage across not only coverage across our billion monthly active users in Gmail, Drive, and up to 8 other services, we're able to block 10 million spam messages every minute from reaching Gmail customers. Additionally, we're able to index hundreds of thousands of web pages and block thousands of malicious URLs, thousands of instances of unwanted software, and every minute, before they even reach your end users, we're able to take advantage of this machine learning that is studying all of the traffic that comes across our consumer, enterprise, and educational environments. And secure email is, of course, particularly important because it's the #1 vector for attacks. Email is by far the most common way that users are attacked when they get phished, for example, when they receive malicious content or or malware. So our built-in defenses against ransomware, polymorphic malware, and other sources of threats allow us to block that malicious content before it ever gets to the end user with attachment heuristics where we can detect emails that could be threats based on signals that we know from our machine learning sources, as well as sender signatures where we're able to detect known malware senders before they ever reach your inbox. So we're able to provide this proactive protection with no action taken by you, the administrator, so that we can reduce the risk by over 99.9% that your users might ever get a spam or a phish. But in addition to that, we provide intelligent protection so that you can take advantage of these tools to protect your users and take action if any user is subject to potential threats. So an example of this is our safe browsing technology, where we're able to protect over 3 billion devices worldwide using our safe browsing in Google Chrome browsers. But as part of G Suite Security, we provide a full range of tools which allow you to stay ahead of the latest threats by notifying you when you have important alerts, but also giving you control over those so that we don't waste your time with excessive alerts or noise. One of the things that we hear consistently from customers is that they want to get quickly to resolve what matters, but not be bothered by alerts that aren't actually important. Many administrators get thousands of alerts per day, and it's no surprise that they're not investigated if we don't have an opportunity to prioritize them. So with the Alert Center for G Suite, you might have seen the demo on the show floor today. With the Alert Center for G Suite, we're able to provide a comprehensive view, but very importantly, prioritize those alerts so that you're able to see which ones you may need to take action about. For example, if you have a user who's reported phishes repeatedly, you may wish to investigate that user, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. In addition, you can take actions to actually look deep into the incident and understand what the potential cause or issue was. When you get one of these alerts, you can dive deeper with our G Suite Security Center. Now, the G Suite Security Center, this is available in our Enterprise and our Education Advanced SKUs. The G Suite Security Center provides an easy-to-use, comprehensive view of all of the security-related activity across your environment. If you've seen the dashboard, you've seen that we provide visualization of, for example, the potential emails that were blocked for spam, emails that were blocked for phishing, external shares in Drive, new authorizations of third-party apps. Many of our education customers use a lot of third-party apps to access private G Suite data, and so we can provide overviews of this activity in the Security Center. And very importantly, when you look at these dashboards, you can dive deep into specific incidents as they occur, or specific examples. So for example, if you see a spike in potentially phishing or a spike in spam activity, you can dive deep and understand what's really happening there. Additionally, you can do that with OAuth authorizations, and I'll tell you more about how you can control that in just a minute. Beyond the security dashboard in G Suite Security Center, we also offer our security health tool. Do many of you use that feature today? Just a couple. So I would strongly encourage you to have a look at the Security Health Tool. Security Health Tool, which is available under the security menu, again for our advanced customers. We have it on demo again downstairs today. This recommends security settings where you can proactively set your G Suite settings to prevent known security threats. So some good examples of the Security Health Tool advice might be, for example, we can tell when you don't have two-factor authentication or security keys activated, and we can advise you, hey, that's something we really recommend to stay ahead of potential phishing threats. Or you may wish to block Gmail. You may wish to block IMAP and POP access to Gmail because those are potentially a source of risk. And we can tell you if that configuration needs to be tightened up. As you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, where we have the green checkbox, that's where we advise that your security health is correct. And where we have the little gray checkbox, that's where we have advice where you might wish to tighten your security settings. Now, of course, the Security Health Tool provides advice. It's up to you to decide what's right for your environment, but we try to make these recommendations the correct ones for the best for you to reduce your risk. And the Security Investigation Tool, this is something we're very proud of. This allows you to dive deep into examples, dive deep into queries based on what you see specifically in that Alert Center as well as on the security dashboard. So some great example of this is if you see a malicious email or a series of malicious emails that comes to one or more particular users in your environment. Let's say that you see a spike in spam on the security dashboard. You can dive deep using this to understand how many messages are being sent from or sent to particular users, and then you can pivot on those users to see, are they also sending out malicious emails? Were they perhaps compromised? And from this view, you can actually go straight to requiring a password change, to changing the policy around two-factor authentication, to blocking external sharing by these users. That's something that often, if you're trying to investigate a situation where a user might be compromised, you can take those actions for those particular users and thereby reduce their risk while you investigate and see what the cause was. The Security Investigation Tool also allows you to take bulk actions. For example, if a large amount of malicious content has come in, you can block it all at once, all by doing advanced queries using this tool. We have a couple additional features related to this. Data loss prevention gives you the ability to block external sharing of, for example, sensitive content. You can block external sharing of particular categories of personally identifiable information, such as driver's license and social security numbers. You can also block external sharing of via Gmail and Drive of private data associated with particular projects. And we're very proud to, we're working on some additional enhancements to these services coming out later this year. App access control is something that many of our EDU customers have raised as an important feature. We allow you to control which third-party apps can access your private G Suite data via OAuth 2 scopes. Why this matters is we take great pride in the fact that we offer an open environment where you can enable a wide range of apps to work with your data as an end user. But sometimes those apps can pose risks. So this allows you to whitelist those individual apps that you trust and limit access to private G Suite data for all the rest. So with these tools and additional ones that I didn't have time to cover, we work very hard to make this a simple environment for you, the administrator, and for your users. And we make it possible for you to manage the full range of your productivity environment with easy, proactive security from the cloud, so that you can have full visibility of potential security incidents while letting your users be productive and save time. A couple other ways that we promote simplicity, our cloud identity service allows you to manage single sign-on into a wide range of external services, and it provides the identity infrastructure for both G Suite and Google Cloud Platform, along with mobile device management, where you can enforce minimum security levels for iOS and Android. This is particularly important if you have a large number of mobile users who are accessing your private data or accessing your G Suite data. And finally, I'm sure you've heard in other sessions, we are very proud of our experience with the security keys. We talked about how in our policies in the Security Health Tool, we provide advice that your users, especially sensitive users, should be using security keys to prevent account hijacking. And we're very proud that in customers who have deployed security keys, we've not seen any reported or detected G Suite account hijackings. So we provide advice on how to make those available. I'm sure you've seen the demos around the Titan security keys. And actually, we have a new announcement about security keys just today that you can use your Android device as a security key as well, which allows you to avoid having to carry a key in your pocket. I won't go through this entire list today, but we announced quite a few great new security features and announcements today as part of our G Suite security update this morning. A few key ones: we talked about Android as to second-factor authentication. We've added security sandboxing to email so that we're able to actually detonate the content of email and see if it is malicious before it ever reaches the user. Context-aware access just entered beta. This allows you to control your users' access to G Suite resources based on the identity and security posture of their device. And access transparency, this allows you to see which Googlers are actually taking action on your users' accounts when they're responding to support calls. This is something many of our customers have asked for so that we can show you that we're taking good care of your data for compliance reasons. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason to talk a little bit about how NC State takes advantage of our G Suite security capabilities.
Thanks, Andrew. As he said, I'm Jason Mayners from NC State University, and if you're not familiar, North Carolina State University is what's called a land, sea, and space grant institution located in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're the largest state institution with over 35,000 students, 10,000 staff and faculty members. And we've been a G Suite campus for nearly a decade, and my current over 100,000 active accounts love the environment. They love the collaborative tools. They love everything that comes with it. But with any environment where you have people sharing data back and forth, that always comes with risk. And risk is one of those things that whether you're an administrator or a security professional, you take very seriously about the actions that you take. And for us, unfortunately, we came face to face with this in 2016. You see, there was one phish that compromised one account, and in that one account, there was one attachment. And that attachment held the PII of over 38,000 then, current, and some former students. Now, we had no way to know at the time whether the attachment was accessed or not. All we knew that was the inbox was compromised and that it was logged into from an unknown source. Now, that rocked our world in a lot of ways. If any of you have ever dealt with a data breach, you understand the ramifications of something like that. And it was in that moment that, despite having cybersecurity roadmaps and other actions in place, it served as a flashpoint, a moment where we said, we're going to change. Now, we'd been doing other things prior to this. We had rolled out to two-step verification in Google and said, hey, you can enable it if you would like to. We had been scanning and analyzing and looking at messages through a lot of different methods and ways. But this served as that moment, that pivot moment that we could do something different. And what I hope to show you today is what you can do with not only the tools that Google's provided, but with now some of the data that they're giving you access to, where you can take that a little further, combine some elbow grease yourself, and actually come up with some really impressive tooling and opportunities to sort of analyze what's going on in your environment. So let's talk about some of the reactive strategies that we took. And what I mean by reactive is something has already happened. The account has already been compromised, right? We didn't catch it before the user looked at it, okay? So what do we do in these situations? So we do a couple of things. One, we rely on the alert center to let us know some of what's happening. But we also look at some of the behavior that comes back from Google. You've probably, if you have signed up for the alerts inside the admin dashboard, you may have received an alert that Google has disabled an account in your environment, okay? And that comes in as an email form. Well, we talked with our security folks and we said, Google is just one part of a person's account persona for our campus. Shouldn't we say that if Google thinks that they've done something wrong with their account or their credentials are compromised, that means the rest of their resources are at risk? And so what we've done, and it's pretty basic right now, but those alert emails that Google says that an account's been disabled, it forwards to an inbox that has a proc mail script that grabs the ID out of it and pushes it into the disable system. So the rest of their account is disabled. It was really simple. It's a single script running on a single server. And I'm also excited to say that they're getting ready to put this into an API, which will make that call even easier for us to do. The other thing that we did was, as I mentioned, we already had two-step verification in our environment, but we took it a step further, and we instituted a policy. That policy was called one phish, two-step. If you get phished, if your account was compromised due to a phishing attack, guess what? Welcome to two-step verification. You're now enforced into two-step verification. No longer an option for that. And so that helped a lot to further protect accounts. After that data breach, we actually took it even a step further, and we started with all of our sensitive data users and did a mandatory two-factor rollout. We actually used two multi-factor systems. We use Google's two-step verification for their Google identity, and then we have another product in front of our SSO environment. We actually maintain two separate logins with that purpose. And while, yes, it does have its challenges, we rolled both out simultaneously. And I'm happy to say today that all of our faculty and staff and employees, even student employees, are enforced in a two-factor within 30 days of starting at the university. And we're in the process of rolling that out to all of our student population as well. The other thing that we do is we take another alert that Google provides that you may have seen called the suspicious activity. You can get an email. It's, again, one of those things you can toggle on in the admin panel, and it says, we've seen some suspicious activity from this user. It's not enough to disable the account. We haven't seen it blasting spam or anything like that, but we've seen something that seems amiss. And so what we do is we take that data as just a data point into an internal system that we have. It's kind of like a poor man's SIM. It started over a decade ago where we just started aggregating things like VPN logs and SSO logs, and we just feed that suspicious activity in as one more data point. And we can then combine that with things like our travel system. And so we can know, hey, Google said there's a suspicious login. That IP happens to be from Japan. Well, guess what? That faculty member is traveling right now, and that faculty member is in Japan. So that's not that suspicious to us. It's suspicious to Google because it's different, but we know more about our users. So we can then choose not to take any negative action on that user. Now, if the user is not traveling in Japan, that can give us a greater insight into looking at that account more closely and trying to make those decisions. Now, I would love to say that we can, do all of everything reactively, or that, in fact, a perfect world, we would be so proactive, no account would ever get compromised. But that's just not the case. So with us in a proactive manner, we're constantly looking at the attack vectors that come in. We leverage the Alert Center, which is great because it shows us the things that our users are marking as spam and phishing. And we look at that content and see if there's ways that we can tailor content compliance filters or other rules, DLP rules inside of Drive, to do things to protect our users. One of the favorite attempts right now is, I was talking with some other higher ed customers earlier, and I think most people have seen this, is the concept of gift cards. They're going for the quick buck these days. A scammer will email a person, ask them to buy a gift card, or even offer them a part-time personal assistant job. We got one that came in actually last week. It said 6 hours of employment for $530 a week. You do the hourly pay rate on that. I'm in the wrong profession if that works out as a real job. And they would send them a certified check in the mail and say, here's your first month's pay. Go cash it. They would contact them the next day and say, hey, I need you to buy some stuff, and I need some gift cards. We're actually supporting this orphan ministry overseas, and we need to send them some stuff. They need Walmart gift cards. That student, the check hasn't fully cleared the bank, but a lot of times that bank will go ahead and put the money in the account. They'll go buy the gift cards. They'll go buy the thing because they think they've got a great new job. I wish to say I was joking on this, but I'm not. And that's the case of today. So what we've done is we've worked to sort of take some of those patterns, those matchings of stories and things that the users are doing, the domains that they're sending from, the links that they use, the form builders they use, and write custom rules and scripts inside of Google, mainly using content compliance rules to filter those messages out, to quarantine them, or at a minimum, prepin the subject line that says suspicious links or potential phishing or potential job scam, and just to alert the user, hey, pay closer attention to what's going on here. Now, I would love to say that everything's great, and I'm excited to say that Google has a lot more tools available today than we did a few years ago. I'm really excited for some of the context-aware policies that Andrew mentioned, even the advancement in Alert Center to sort of do collaborative investigations into accounts. But there are also other strategies that we're still trying to figure out with this. How do we handle data loss prevention around sensitive data? We've got researchers who've gotten really accustomed to using Google in their classes and even in local data stores, but now they've got this grant from the federal government, and they've got CUI data or controlled unclassified information data, and they want to use Google to collaborate on that. How do they do that? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that yet, but these are some of the things that we're wrestling with. And then for us on the horizon, the things that we're looking at is automation, automation, automation. That's why I'm excited about some of these tools that Google is going to be bringing to the table as we begin to leverage those in a different way and take advantage of those things to hopefully streamline our process and take a lot fewer man hours in all of it. And then, finally, as I mentioned, it only took one fish to serve as that flashpoint for us. I'm hopeful today that if I've accomplished anything, it's the idea that if you're not doing some of these things, if you're not looking at the Alert Center, if you are an enterprise customer and aren't using the investigation tools, if you haven't even enabled in Gmail the advanced security features that says someone's masquerading as a user from an external domain, doing the suspicious link flagging and checking, if you haven't do those things, make that change. Do that now. It's easy. It's really simple and easy, but it can make a world of difference in the process. So I'm going to turn this over to Mike, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about what they're doing.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. This sounds a lot better than the TV controller in my hotel room. As Jason mentioned, my name is Mike Saxton. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer at Georgetown University. Before I get started, I'd like to say a special thank you to Jason, all the Google security administrators in this room. Jason gave a great overview of what our analysts in higher ed face on a daily basis. And while security in higher ed isn't much different than security in other industries, it does have its intricacies that we have to work through. You may have read a lot about recent security breaches at universities. I came from a different environment 6 months ago, which I'll talk about here in just a little bit. But I'm amazed at some of the way that our security analysts have been able to use G Suite to provide innovative solutions in a really resource-constrained environment, but also in an industry that is incredibly important to our communities and the better good. So thank you for your work and all the work that you guys are doing out there. So I do have to apologize, though. I put in a request to bring Jack the Bulldog here. Unfortunately, it was denied. He's got a pretty busy social schedule right now, so I hope you guys can deal with the picture of that good boy on the screen living his best life on campus. I also removed the transition comment I was going to make that he feels really great that we are securely storing his information in Google Cloud, especially as it relates to HIP-PA data, but I decided to remove all the bad jokes from this presentation, so I apologize in advance if you were expecting them. If you want those, meet me afterwards. I have plenty of them. So I came over to higher education about 6 months ago. I spent nearly the past decade working in the Department of Defense. I could not have expected the complete 180-degree thought process that I would have to put through my head and how the security threats face the higher education environment. Coming from Department of Defense in what is a very bureaucratic, slow, and rigid environment, now working in higher education where I struggle to keep up with what happens on a daily basis. But I see some specific security challenges that are in higher education that G Suite has really enabled us to work through. And I'm going to talk a little bit less about the technical implementation, but more about how G Suite falls into our ecosphere at Georgetown University, especially as we begin to adopt a cloud-first approach. One of the biggest challenges that we face is that we have to remain open. Coming from that DoD environment, if there was anything that we just didn't feel should be accessed, we blocked it. It's quite the opposite in higher ed. Some of that stuff we want to block, we have professors and researchers and students that work on a regular basis. We also have to remain on. We have professors, researchers, students that are building their careers or have built their careers in very niche environments that come with things that aren't always the best thing to be on the network for security. And when they're working day in and day out trying to get grant money, I can't look at them all the time and say, not today. We also are a very a highly targeted institution. We are based in Washington, D.C. We have a great relationship with government organizations in the Washington, D.C. area. We have actually one of our previous professors and alumni was the director of the CIA. We continuously face threats that are focused a lot on those that high visibility. Hillary Clinton was on campus last month, and within the 48 hours prior to her arrival, we saw over 14,000 phishing emails come in. And using tools very much like Security Center that Jason talked about earlier, we were able to mitigate a lot of that threat very quickly. So we take all of that, and we wrap it up into the last point before I transition, and that in an industry study that was done for higher education ranked in 17th place of 17 industries for their cybersecurity practices. So how do we take being in last place, how do we take being open and on and being a high-value target and implement some of the capabilities that are provided through G Suite and enable our students, our professors, and our staff to do the jobs that they're there to do. I don't know how many of you out there are still on-prem email systems or file storage systems, but judging by the show of hands, there's a pretty good amount of you that have probably moved to the cloud by now. But one of the greatest capabilities of G Suite for us has been the move to cloud email that has enabled us to become more secure and compliant at the same time. I don't have to tell everybody here about the benefits of going to cloud-based email systems, operations and maintenance. You all know all that. But one of the great things is that it provides us with more security, and it also helps us be compliant. In those email systems and those file share systems, like Gmail and like Google Drive, we can now provide increased security and greatly reduce our risk profile. In the university setting, we have to protect student data, which must be protected by FERPA. At Georgetown, we have a medical center and medical school, so we have to protect HIPAA data. And last, we also are an R1 research institution, one of the top research institutions, and we work regularly with the government, and some of the things that we have to comply with are that we must abide by FISMA compliance. Having a system such as the G Suite system, where we can really rely on the compliance that Google has in place and off-put a lot of that risk onto that environment has been a tremendous success for us. University networks are noisy networks, and we talked a lot about Gmail, but in the grand scheme of things, two of the best features of G Suite are also two of the most targeted things that we face on a regular basis. I can tell you from my experience of working in penetration testing teams, as soon as we got into the network, one of the first places that we went was the file share system, because it contained payroll data, it contained healthcare data, and it contained all those unencrypted passwords that systems administrators would leave in text files, and I'm looking at all of you in this room to go back and delete those as soon as you get back. But the ability for us to move email and file store off of our on-prem systems and into the cloud and beyond our perimeter has greatly increased our security practices and our ability to deliver those services securely. I don't want to talk about zero trust and the beyond court model that Google has done, as there's plenty of presentations here and better subject matter experts on those subjects that you can talk to with that. About that. But I do feel that that zero trust model is the only way that universities can succeed with all the threats that are leveraged against them. And if your organizations haven't begun looking towards that model, I would highly recommend it. Taking those systems, storing them outside of the perimeter for the docs that our researchers are using on their research, the email the students are using to talk back and forth with their professors, and then the file share system so that people aren't downloading files, emailing them over, editing them, emailing them back, especially when they contain protected information, has been something that is great for us. So what we do is we take these critical systems, we move them beyond our perimeter. I talked a little bit about working in the Department of Defense, where I wasn't even allowed to bring a cell phone into the building every day, to now, where we have every user on our network has about 1.8 devices on them at all times. We have traveling researchers, we have traveling faculty, we have vendors, we have contractors. Here in a couple weeks, we're going to have a couple more thousand people accessing our network as Georgetown graduates some students. And being able to move all of this out of the system again helps me feel, I'm not going to say I sleep better at night for it, but I certainly feel a little bit better that those critical systems that we have been stored somewhere else so that when we get breached, not if we get breached, the threat has greatly been reduced to us once they're in. So I touched on these four at the very beginning. I'm going to skip the first one for right now because it's going to be in my closing section. But in the university setting, we must remain open and we must remain on. And we've been able to leverage G Suite tremendously to mix or to fight through those two factors that we have no other option to work with. Those high-value relationships, again, that we will continue to be targeted for some of those high-value relationships as students want to get the best education that they can, and as universities want to attract the best individuals to come teach at the university, that will always continue. But about this number 17 that I talked about, being in last place, I feel that there is a lot that can be done within the higher education space to improve our security practices. One of the things that's interested me since I've taken over is every time I read a report about a large institution that was breached, there seems to be a direct correlation between the level of education that's being taught at that institution and the correlation as though the staff has to keep up with that changing environment. Those of us that work in higher education have a little bit of an issue drawing that direct correlation line, but I do think it opens up a lot of conversation. So what I would ask and what I would challenge everybody in this room, not just in the higher education space, but talk amongst your peers while you're here. Talk about some of the security practices that they've implemented, especially around the G Suite, especially around G Suite. Talk to the vendors on the floor. Listen to some of these keynotes and presentations that are going on and figure out how you can work to take a lot of these practices back to where you are. Because for those of us in the higher education space, I firmly believe, not today, not tomorrow, maybe when we all reconvene here next year, but definitely within the next 2 years, that we can get out of 17th place and hopefully move to first place, because our students, our faculty, and our staff certainly rely on us to be there.